Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of the first round of the 2022 iRacing Short Course National Series, live from iRacing's virtual Crandon International Raceway in Crandon, Wisconsin. My name's Justin Prince. Alongside me the booth tonight are my colleagues Taylor Burris and Dave Arnold, the voice of Off-Road. Our producer for this evening is Ryan Bauer. Ryan is using cameras provided by the great Dougie Beard. Taylor, I turn to you first as we get ready for the start of a brand new season for this series. Lots of talent has made its way through this series in its history, but now it's time to start anew for 2022.
And what a way to kick off the 2022 season with some of the biggest names in off-road short course racing and some of the newest up-and-coming talent that will be competing in 2022. This is a great way for them to showcase their talent and at a track that will definitely test the might of any veteran or rookie that comes out to this circuit.
And Dave, let's talk about some of those drivers in detail a bit, because you have experience calling a lot of the action in the real world with some of these competitors. Who do you feel we need to keep an eye on the most tonight, knowing how talented this group is?
Well, I mean, of course, Mason Prater, he's been a back-to-back champion there for sure. He's one always to keep an eye on out there. But, you know, we had some fast drivers that are coming up through the program. For example, Darren Hardesty Jr., he knows how to get the championship. He's a multi-champion in Pro Buggy in real life at the Lucas Oil Off-Road Racing Series. Mason Prater, he's going to be, going for him quite a bit. But Zach Drapkin, that young man, he had some issues last year, but I'll tell you, he knows how to put it on the podium for sure. Sometimes a little controversial, but he's exciting to watch. A very fast young driver. Another one to keep an eye on for sure, Titus Sherlock. Titus has really come a far way this last year, and I'll tell you, keep an eye on that young man. He knows how to put it on the box.
Now, before we get to some of the details for tonight's action, we want to take the time to announce the 2022 series sponsors and thank them for their support. CBR Performance Products, AIM Sports Data, Super Clean, Dirt Sports World, Signature Propellers, Positive Beverage, and Smith Graphics. It's with their support, the estimated prize pool total is around $2,000 for this season. And let's talk about this respective season, Taylor, because a lot of tracks they'll be visiting, especially a few times, in fact. But these drivers essentially have from January to March to see who can become the champion this winter, all the way to the start of spring.
And it's certainly a certain amount of tracks and schedule that it will test the might of every single one of these drivers. Of course, we have multiple configurations with Crandon, with the full and short course. Then we head to Bark River International Raceway in the next week, actually. And then personally, my personal favorite short course here on iRacing, Wild Horse Pass Motorsports Park. That will definitely test the might of any driver that goes out there. Love how the caricature of that track, along with just the undulations, the twist turns, everything about that circuit is an absolute blast. And of course, here at Crandon, it's going to be exciting to watch all these drivers take on this historical and world center of short course racing here.
Let's take the chance to look at our Google Earth for tonight's action. And as mentioned, we are at Crandon International. This track has a lot of history, opens to the 1970s. Dave, talk us through this circuit where it will start this brand new season.
Well, over 52 years of racing at Crandon has made it a staple in the Midwest, for short course racing for sure. And one of the great things about it, which you won't see any other tracks, is the famous land rush from the Skewett starting line there. And that is exciting. When they're heading into the Potawatomi turn number 1, it's nothing but full throttle, full speed, approaching 100 miles an hour. And sometimes you got 5 wide going in there. Sometimes things go well, sometimes they don't. But I'll tell you, Crandon never disappoints. A lot of turns, a lot of twists there, a lot of places to have a lot of contact, and a lot of passing going on.
Keep in mind for tonight, as we take a look at your podium race analysis, that these drivers will have a mid-race caution. It's worth noting for the feature this evening, which will be at the end of lap 5, it will be a race control caution where the drivers will be brought to a speed before being brought to a restart zone. But the main thing to think about is there will be up to 3 heat races available, 6 laps apiece. Essentially, the top 4 make it from there. And then, Taylor, it gets wild because essentially 4 laps per LCQ to try and make the 12 lap feature.
It certainly will be exciting to see how these drivers are going to be able to negotiate these heat races at LCQ. The magic number for tonight is 4, as we heard from Justin about that. You want to make sure that you are on that 4th and final lap, are inside the top 4 to be able to transfer to the big show where the 20 best drivers will battle it out for those 12 laps. And of course, like we said, that 5-lap competition caution is going to be exciting to see.
The drivers are currently in the midst of 10 minutes of solo qualifying, 4 laps to be able to set their best times. Titus Sherlock is amongst the first. We'll be keeping an eye on as we are underway for qualifying. The first minute already is off the board, but the question is going to be which drivers put themselves to the top of the board. Dave, talk us through the driving you're seeing right here from Sherlock, trying to make his way around the circuit for one of the first times around. Most of these drivers still yet to take their first time lap.
One of the things, of course, in qualifying, you're out there by yourself, you're getting your times down, and that's what you want to be smooth. And you can see right now Titus looks like he's going by Skyback's corner there, heading down towards the gravel pit. It's a sharp 90-degree turn when they're coming around. This is going to bring him towards that finish line there. See a little Polaris Leap going to come up here into the Calamity Corner. One of the reasons they call this Calamity Corner here, boy, it is not wide. You get 3 wide through there, they're going to definitely be rubbing on each other. And you can see Mason Prater right there. That was our defending champion. He's got the number 1 there. Franklin Monac in the 110 machine there. You can see where he's going to come through across the McCoy finish line. Going to be heading over towards that Walker-Evans jump. Now you can see it's a little off camber as they come through here. Do a slight right turn. Now this is very important. You have to get on it, get this thing to rotate there. No, it's about a 70-degree turn there. So they're going to keep some speed up, but you're also going to see the rotation. This is where you're going to see some of the highest speed as they come through the backwoods here. This is where they come in the famous Cowboys corner. It is 90 degrees coming around. 2-3 cars, you're going to have some contact here. And this is where they're going to get back up to full speed and head into that Potawatomi turn number 1, which is after the start. This is going to be run parallel to that land rush start.
And you see some of the times already starting to populate a little bit to the point where Drapkin put up a 1:18.8, Crystal King a 1:18.9. Some drivers recording times in the 120s to start off the session. Keep in mind, the quickest drivers in practice put in 1:16.7s. That was Keenan Swain who led that grouping. Meanwhile, Mason Prater, who was 3rd in practice, looking to set his first qualifying lap up to the board. Currently looking pretty solid so far. In fact, 134 you've seen put up on that timing chart. This is now the start of his first time lap, coming to the end of said lap this time around for Mason Prater Taylor.
He certainly is, and as you see on board with his camera, he has his driver's suit on. He's ready to go at it, giving it the full experience. But notice the sawing at the wheel and the importance of making sure that you're able to hug the inside corner, try to carry that momentum as best that you can. Careful on the jumps. You don't want to land too hard on there. As we see, he's getting a little bit of wheel in there, tries to slide it through, and having a great run right now as he comes up to the top of this hill.
Take a look now at Reese Newer, trying to drive around the number 15 machine. But I'm curious as well which drivers end up trying to showcase what they can do that we may not expect. Keep in mind, there is a lot of talent amongst this field, but for many of these drivers here, Dave, it's a great chance for them to showcase they can compete at the big levels. They can compete at the big stage. For example, when it comes to this number 15 machine, he noted in his descriptions entering tonight's action that he considered himself more as a kicking prospect. If I read correctly, yes, for the Orange County, California-based driver.
Yeah, Reese Newer, you're talking about, or you're talking about Zach Drapkin? I'm sorry.
Oh, Reese.
Yeah, Reese Newer, awesome little kid. I know he's done a lot of that. He watched him go through the National Series when it first started out there, but also he did the Regional Series. Now, the Regional is more of a driver development, so I can see where he's starting to pick through the field here now. He's literally learned a lot of that Regional Series, and I think coming into the National Series, this is where it's going to show off him learning how to work his way through traffic. And speaking of one of the kids, I watched Zach Drapkin. I can tell you, he's not afraid to throw it in there, but he's the same type of driver. He can work through that traffic. I've seen him in the back of the pack work his way up to a podium position many times.
And he's also one of the drivers who is racing with the racing suit on tonight. Drapkin, by the way, he is on the 4th lap of his respective qualifying run. Right now, Dropkin inside the top 5. Separation, though, about 6/10. He's just been bumped to 5th, though, because Keaton Swain just put up a 1:18.1 on his second completed lap to jump to the top of the board over Connor Berry.
Great lap time indeed by Keaton Swain as he's going to continue on. He's a little bit off pace for his second lap. I'm looking through the field right now to see who is on a flyer on their fastest lap. Looking at a couple, the 07 of Bryce Simonox is currently on a fast lap with about 13 seconds, or a good little bit of run right now. We'll see if he can improve his lap time, currently sitting 14th on the leaderboard here as he comes through. There's Shane Paul in the 38.9 machine as well. He's currently getting his way up and going as he is currently looking at timing and scoring. Has yet to start his first lap as we see Reese Newer now working his way through.
To correct you there, Taylor, he's actually on his 4th lap. He just hasn't set a time. And that's not easy to do, keep in mind, when it comes to trying to keep yourself from an invalidated lap in some circumstances. Looking back at the number 15, meanwhile, once more, the doggo-looking race car looking to try and zoom its way around the circuit. But how would you say the approach could be for some of the drivers tonight, Dave, knowing this is the first race of a brand new season, a lot's on the line, and in turn, you want to start off the season right?
Well, I think it's basically going to be a dogfight coming out of it because these drivers, you know, they've been itching to get a new season going on. It's the first race of the year for them in the Short Course National Series. So I think they're going to lay all their cards on the table tonight. I think we're going to see a lot of people fighting for that first position coming out of the first turn for sure.
See how Reese Newer closes out his qualifying run. 1:19.7, the best lap he had put up. No confirmed time, though, that time. That was an invalidated time. The 07 machine also looking to close up some laps right here. So a couple minutes to go in the session, Taylor, before drivers get ready for some heat racing action. And curious on your perspective on this as well. How would you say the expectations could be for some of the drivers? How do you feel this could come on down for tonight?
It all depends on how these drivers are coming into focus. For those who are just trying to make sure that they run their consistent laps and try to make their way through each and every heat race, LCQ, to make it to the big show, that is what they're going to be their focus. Try to make sure they take care of their equipment and make sure that they avoid all the incidents that will be expected when we get started with tonight's race here as we watch Brock Smith in the number 50 trying to get his qualifying completed. And one other thing that these drivers are going to have to realize is it's going to be a sense of urgency mixed with patience. You got to be balanced about that with these heat races and these LCQs. Even though these races are very short lap-wise, they still have plenty of time to either make gains or make mistakes. It's all about trying to showcase that balance here as they get ready for the first set of heat races.
Take a look at one of the final drivers to try and set some lap times. It's the number 91, 44. Luis Patino currently 3 seconds off the pole mark, a 1:20.9 that time by around the board. I believe that did not count, however, now on his respective 4th lap. So about a minute to go, as keep in mind, some of the drivers are taking extra time here, Dave, to learn this racetrack, get some practice done. Like we're seeing, this is a 5th lap, for example, being taken right now on screen. In terms of what we should expect to see for the heat race, your quick final thoughts before we get ready to head towards those first grids of the season.
Oh, I know these drivers are going to want to get out front, and I think that's going to be the key to this race out here, getting in the top 4 position right away. And that could be really done and established with this short of a time here for the first heat races. You want to get out front on that first turn. The Potawatomi turn number 1 is key. Where you establish yourself, pretty much going to set the tone for the rest of the race.
It's the last of the times being completed. Drivers have a few more moments before they try and make the charge for the land rush to start off tonight's heat racing action. For these drivers, it's going to be interesting which one puts up a strong start to the season. Keep in mind, when it comes to the top 10 in qualifying, it was separation differentials of about 9/10. Overall, 59 trucks have registered for tonight's action. Let's take a look at how said action fares out. There is an invert for the first 2 grid slots, which means Felix Roy, the iRacing World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Cars World Championship driver, will start on the pole alongside Keaton Swain. Then row 2 sees Zachary Dropkin start alongside Titus Sherlock. Terry Miller starts in row 3. He'll start alongside Trenton Brilli. Taylor.
On to row number 4, you will find Noah Sanders, followed by Anthony Gaudillo, who will be starting. Rounding out your top 10 will be Reese Newer and Tom Grady. Starting in 11th will be Cross Kirchmeier, followed by Aiden Irvin in the 12th position.
13th position tonight goes to Roland Johns with Dennis Crosby in 14th position. Keep an eye on Donnie Stolbitz as well from 15th. Scott Posey scheduled to start 16th with James Watson 17th. The last of the drivers, Sawyer Tinker, will line up in front around Devin Allen and Trey Blank, the 20 drivers in heat number 1. And remember, just 4 advance to the feature. No pressure, Dave. Just got to make sure you get to the top 4.
Yeah, that's definitely no pressure whatsoever. Only top 4 are going to qualify. You got a fat field there. You got a land rash, 100 miles an hour, going to thread the eye of the needle.
Seen with the track conditions, by the way, pretty cool for today. The iRacing day is iRacing day itself. May 15th, 2022. Just approaching 1 p.m. in Sim. Drivers have now finished up their sequence. Now, how will Heat 1 fare out for the brand new season? Let's find out. Green flag is waving, we're off and away. And a great launch for Keenan Swain. He leads the land rush onto the first corner. He tries to get ahead of Felix Roy. Roy tries to stay hard to the inside. Roy clears himself across the nose of Dropkin. Some drivers riding over the wall as they crash into the midst of the corner. 3-4 wide in the midst of the Hornet's Nest.
3 and 4 wide as they come through here underneath the Posse Bridge as they come out of turn number 2. Now heading over to the Skybox Straight. It's going to be exciting to see as we see Keaton Swain and Zachary Draken now pull away. Now here comes Draken to the inside and Scott Posey. Move him up a spot as he works his way up through the field as they're 3 wide, 4 wide even a little further back.
Terry Miller gave a little bit of a door shot to Felix Roy to bump him out of the right. Felix Roy giving a shot on back to battle for 5th. More drivers riding hard against the wall. One driver is spun around in the midst of the back of the pack. Tom Grady is just backed up into the pack as well. The leaders, meanwhile, Swain, Dropkin, Miller, Roy now inside the top spots for the time being.
Meanwhile, as we watch on board here with Zachary Drapkins, he is sitting comfortably in that second position now, about half a second back from your race leader, Keaton Swain, who has now retaken the race lead as they work their way over into the hairpin. And as they come out of there, it is going to be your top 4 starting to pull away. Terry Miller and Felix Roy trying to make sure that they keep ahead of Reese Newer, who is now working their way through as they head back to the Potawatomi turn 1.
Out the first laps of this action, as let's take a look at Reese in particular. A bumping and banging first lap. He's the first man out currently, Dave, after the first lap. Approaching now 5 to go in this first heat of the season.
That's why I said for sure everything's going to be in that first turn, and we can see, of course, out front, Keaton Swain. He got in that style of position. I talked about Dropkin earlier. Keep an eye on him, and that's for sure. He was right in there. But, you know, guys are coming together, a lot of beating and banging going on there, and Swain was able to stay out of it. It looked like Reese tried to stay a little bit wide there. It got him into trouble.
Take a look at Dropkin in particular, still in second position. Looking to have a lot of fun right now on that inside groove. Right now is trailing by about 1.2 seconds, Taylor, but looking comfortable. Who's not comfortable, though? The battle for 3rd. That's heating up with Miller attacked from Felix Roy. Newer is also under attack by Sherlock now towards the middle sector.
They certainly are as they work their way through, as they look to the inside through the Cowboy hairpin. Oh, trouble for Terry Miller and Zachary Draken as they make contact. They gather it back up and continue on their way as they make the run over to the Potawatomi turn number 1 once again. But as they do, that now brings Felix Roy a little closer. No pressure right now from Titus Sherlock, who now moves up into the 5th position. He's about 3 seconds back from your top 4.
And it's not going to be easy for some of the drivers, keep in mind, Dave, to try and catch up unless battles such as this one heat up. Here's the thing, though. Remember that contact talked about on the first lap? It was Miller who sent the initial hit. Here's a hit back from Felix Roy.
Well, there's going to be a little contact here as they get down. The laps start to dwindle down. You know, still a few laps to go here, and that's where the moves are going to be made. There, you know, one of those things that you have to kind of go a little slower to work with these guys. You don't want to go into contact because sometimes you'll end up taking yourself out. So you got to charge, but you got to be smart about it.
Especially since they have a near 4-second buffer to this gaggle of cars, Taylor. And Reese Newer is now the meat in the sandwich in this. The Mutt Cuts machine under attack by Noah Sanders now, who tries to get to the inside. Keep in mind for Sanders, it started inside the top 7, trying to gain back some spots.
Yeah, he certainly tried to do that as they come over to the Cowboy hairpin, and as they work their way through, we see Newer now move back up into the top 5 after getting around Titus Sherlock. Here comes now Sanders to the outside as they head to turn number 1. Now Sherlock looks to the inside. They'll go sliding through as they approach to the Ponzi North American turn number 2 now. Hitting the marks, hitting the jump sideways. A little bit of a bobble right there for the 500 of Titus Sherlock, but is able to gather it back up as they head down to the back straightaway to the next corners.
Falling back on board with Sherlock, meanwhile. I believe his cameras actually started to tilt from all the motion, trying to go around the racetrack, trying to battle side by side still. But you have to wonder, what's going to be what catches them back up in front to that battle for 3rd and 4th, Dave? Again, these are the first drivers out. They are still nearly 3 seconds back. They've actually picked up some time this lap.
Yeah, Miller does have a little bit of breathing room back there. You can see back to Newer, but Newer definitely feeling the pressure there from Sherlock, and you can see that a little bit of pressure, a little bumping's going on there. You know, I think Sherlock's just letting, Newer know he's there. You can see him showing a little bit of a nose here. That's where he's trying to set him up here. Going to go for the inside. There it is, a little slide job. But look at this, nice move. Used Newer, basically used him right as a berm, able to take the inside, and that's going to keep momentum. So sometimes you got to watch that entrance speed there. You can see a little too much speed, you could blow that corner like you did.
So that in turn has lost them a little bit of time back that they had picked up throughout the previous lap or so. Sherlock hard as he nearly goes for the bicycle. Still side by side, and Sherlock now giving some door handles as they come up to 2 laps to go.
Great racing back here, but unfortunately it might be too late for these competitors. 3 laps to go for them, and a little bit of a sideways bobble right there. You just saw it as they were coming out of that corner. Now approaching over into Calamity Corner as they slide their way through this tight little hairpin. The 71 of Noah Sanders trying to find an opening to get around Reese Newer.
Right now, Newer still trying to get this valuable spot for now. Sherlock still playing hard defensively. Now it's going to be interesting how this plays out for Newer, because he's now been bumped by Sanders from the inside. Sanders forced to check up. This grouping, remember, had just 3 cars, Dave, before. Now it strains all the way as far back as 13th.
Yeah, I think Sherlock got in the binders a little early for him there, causing Newer to slow quick. That's why Sanders got in the back of him. And you can see right now a good shot there at Trey Blank as he looks forward to the battles that's happening in front of him. But one of the things is the setup is everything for these turns. How much speed you're going to go, if you're going to go high, low, or stay low, and use that drift out and keep your momentum up.
Nearly flipping over though, Sherlock having to hold on to it, and does. Nearly bounced his way off the racetrack. Coming up towards the white flag this time. Newer now trying to pull off and away. Coming up to the final lap, Sherlock goes for the slide job, tries to drive it up to the middle. Newer now with the crossback, nearly runs over the back end of Sherlock, coming up to the finish line. Final lap.
What a battle right here. Even though this is not for the transfer spot, this is still the best battle out on the racetrack right now. In fact, the gap between Sherlock and Miller is about 3.5 seconds. So unless Terry Miller makes a mistake somewhere along this racing circuit, which can be very easy to do if you don't pay attention, he is set for a smooth sail. As we see Keaton Swain, we haven't really talked about him all race long, but he is comfortably ahead of Zachary Draken by about 2 seconds as he comes out of the Cowboy hairpin and past, of course, the merchant trailer just out over there, and heads back over to the Forest County Potawatomi Turn 1 for the final time.
Keaton Swain absolutely dominant, to say the very least, in this heat race. His lap times have been upwards of about 2 to 3 tenths quicker than Drepkin. He's been running nearly a full second quicker than a majority of the field. Keaton Swain coming through the final sets of corners before the finish line to close things off for heat number 1 of the season. The first heat race winner for the iRacing Short Course National Series campaign will go to the direction of the number 21, Keaton Swain. We'll get to celebrate. He'll pick up heat race win number 1. Grapkin finishes in second, followed by Felix Roy, Terry Miller at the top 4. Then it's the Hornet's Nest coming to the final corner as some of them ride the wall. Newer had a bicycle using the wall as a balance, but it's Sherlock who gets 5th. Incredible racing, to say the very least, Dave, to start off the heat racing action. Really sets the tone for what we're going to see tonight.
I was just going to say, the pace has been set, the tone has been set. Now we can see that first turn really establishes how you're going to run this whole race. They're not running a comp caution. They're not running the flag halfway through. A lot of folks that aren't familiar that when we do our main event, halfway through the event, we go ahead and we re-rack, we restack that field by throwing that caution flag. This, you run from green flag to checkered, barring any problems, so important. And you can see Keaton Swain got it, to be going for this next time for sure.
More than 3 seconds.
He's going to be the bullseye.
Absolutely will be. The difference from first to fourth, 9 seconds. Miller again, the last driver in, Sherlock the first out. Only 1 DNF. James Watson had to pit after the first lap. But heat number 2, we'll see Crystal King starting first with Connor Berry in second. Tyson Miller starts in third tonight with Nicholas Deschalais in fourth. Jay Price starts in fifth with Zach Knowles in sixth position. Taylor.
Andrew Keeper will be starting in that 7th position alongside James Burke in the 8th position. Matthias Arjona will be starting in the 8th position, or at 9th position, with Shane Paul rounding out your top 10. Francisco Pieta will be starting in 11th with Austin Blosson surrounding out your top 12.
Levi Metzinger will start 13th. Hunter Carpenter 14th. Patino, Cox, Hill, Lester, the top 18, the last drivers. For the grid, Jaramze, along with Matt Sabre should say. So heat number 2 getting itself all set to go. Just about all the drivers, in fact, already making their way to the racetrack, Dave. Drivers to watch for heat 2.
Whoa. If I had my complete list up there, I could see the whole names, but gosh.
How about Connor Berry?
I'm going to say the 800-pound gorilla is going to be Connor Berry. He's been winning everything out there. When I see him race, he is always a front runner out there. I was kind of like, oh, Connor's in this one. This is going to be interesting.
We'll see how it fares out, because the drivers are just about all set to go for heat number 2 of the iRacing Short Course National Series campaign. Here's a look at Connor Berry as his fan looks to cheer him on as his ceiling fan and his number 1 fan for his room. Just about set to go. Green flag is waving. We're off and away for heat number 2. And a good launch for King to the inside. Berry tries to keep up, loses ground. The first 2 get themselves clear. Now it's 7, making your 7 to 6 wide in the corner. That's not good. Several already upside down, Taylor.
Several are already upside down as they're going 3, 4, even almost 5 wide as they come up through the Ponce turn number 2. And as they come, of course, next through the Skybox Straight, it's going to be a quick run over to the Polaris gravel pit. But right now, it's going to be Connor Berry who takes over that race lead from Crystal King, who both of them had a really good jump on the field. It's 1 over, and goodness gracious.
Tyson Miller got door slammed out of the way from the top 4 and flipped upside down. That is more than a bicycle. That is a rollover, to say the very least. One more is just rolled over in the midst of the final straight corner. That is Bolson, who had that trouble and just has been hit by 15th on back. The race leaders, meanwhile, a little bit more calmer for the top 3 compared to the Hornet's Nest. That's 4th on back, Dave, so far.
Definitely, one of the things you can see is everybody was going for it in that first turn. Well, you can see attrition now affecting the field quite a bit. And it's not mechanical problems. It's guys just overdriving the car. I think the anticipation after waiting, after that first heat, a lot of them are not calming down enough. Connor, though, looking pretty calm.
Looking calm indeed in that race lead for now. 2 drivers, keep in mind, have had to put their cars on the tow truck, their truck should say, Jonah and Metzinger so far. The fourth driver on the track of the pylon after the crazy start, by the way. Shane Paul, he started 10th position. A clean launch for the 39 for the most part. Has a little bit of damage, but has been able to make it through the massive craziness that has been able to take place, Taylor, in turn during the first lap.
Hey, it's key to survival here as he is working his way through in that Premier Ford. And as he comes out of Calamity Corner to come across that start-finish line, he is sitting comfortably right now. About a 1.7 advantage over the 5th place car of Andrew's Keeper. You ride on board with him right now as they work their way up through the top of the hill before working their way a little further back towards the back half of the course, heading through Aragon Corner before making the short run over to the Cowboy Hairpin.
Already losing a bit of time as we take a look at Zach Knowles. So far, Zach Knowles doing a good job keeping up as well here, Dave.
Yeah, definitely. You can see Knowles has settled in there. He's kind of following Barry's lines. And that's, you know, if you know somebody's running a fast line out there, you're sitting in a qualifying position, why mess with it? And I think that's a good strategy right now for sure.
And a +3 for Knowles in this respective heat so far, trying to keep up wheel to wheel with Crystal King still in that battle for second position. Still though, things trying to settle things on down, should say, for a lot of these competitors, but the one driver who's hoping to run away from everything still is Paul. The next driver on back is still Keepers, Taylor, and Keepers is building up a buffer between himself and Bill Lester along with Jake Hill, should say.
Yeah, those three drivers are trying to get themselves going and pulling away from the rest of the field. You got Hunter Carpenter in that 8th position. Francisco Pieta moving up to 9th with Shea Price rounding out your top 10. But they are all trying to hunt down that 39 of Shane Paul as we watch on board screen here. That is the 170 of Jake Hill trying to hold off Francisco Pieta and trying to find his way around Bill Lester. You're on board now. As we see him, that is Connor Berry, your race leader. As his number one fans keeping him cool, as his fans watching on YouTube and on Twitch are just cheering him on to see if he can get this heat race win. Currently has a 1.8 second advantage over Crystal King, your pole sitter.
Keep in mind when it comes to Connor Berry, a long repertoire and resume of experience, especially in iRacing in particular. A lot of experience when it comes to world records, multiple top 5 world records on the platform. Has won a couple championships, has finished inside the top 2 for Triple Crown racing action. A real-world 4-time short course champion. Just so happens to have won 37 times, 62 podiums for him. As we take a look at the 91.
Great shot there. Luis Patino is sitting 12th right now, sitting a little deeper in the field. Now these guys, I know they're just trying to set the pace. They know they're going to have the LCQ, but it's got to be frustrating for them sitting back so deep when you know top 4, the only ones going to the dance tonight.
And in turn, though, Dave, it takes a lot of skill and finesse to be able to figure out which lines can pick up the most time. Just past halfway, for example, this heat, it takes a lot of skill and preparation to pick up everything you need to do to be able to keep up on the pace. There's a reason some of the time differentials upwards of 3 seconds for some of the drivers from the race leader's pace to some in the midst of the packs.
Well, just like in real life and as well as in virtual racing, I mean, practice is everything. Getting your seat time is what it's referred to. These guys have put the time in. You find out the right marks to hit, setting it up there. But on a dirt track, your marks will change. Just like with real racing, when you got to try and pass somebody. So you got to be able to figure out if you're going to sit down that outside line, or to set up to make a pass either outside and take an inside, what is going to be a little bit quicker.
Meanwhile, taking a look at that Gango that continues to battle around for about 6th or so. This has been the midst of where a lot of the contact's been, as expected with this racetrack. Hill, for the past couple laps, has made door-to-door contact in that section, trying to hold off Pieta now, along with Shea Price. The thing is, when it comes to Price, remember, Price had been amongst those who essentially were nearly flipped upside down in the opening lap in the opening sector, Taylor.
Yes, he certainly was, as we watch on board with Shea Price as they're working their way through. Great battling amongst them as we see a little bit of a nudge to the back bumper of the 25 of Pieta as they work down out of Aragon corner, heading over to the Cowboy hairpin, hitting their marks as they hit the jumps. Got to be so careful of where you put the jump. But more contact happens out in front. The 170 goes right up to the top of the racetrack, 3 wide as they come out of the hairpin. Contact is made now as they come down the front straightaway here, heading over to Potawatomi turn 1.
Compare that to the battle up in front for second. It's been very calm, cool, and collected for those drivers, already in a very comfortable spot to try and advance. Zach Knowles trying to gain one more position, it appears right now. Keep in mind, there is a 4-truck invert for the feature. So that may be on the minds of some of the drivers, especially since it's very close to that respective mark for them at the moment. White flag is out, final lap for this respective heat race. Connor Berry continues to lead. The gap, very similar to what we've seen in Heat 1, more than 3 seconds for the final lap.
One thing you want to notice, he's starting to come up on a little bit of lap traffic right now, and that's going to make it interesting. But I don't think these drivers are close enough. But someone I didn't mention earlier, and I should have given her due respect, she's a former regional champion out there, Crystal King. This young lady has come a far way, and that's one of the reasons she's running in second place there. Trying to hold off the events is right now in Knowles, but we'll see if they're going to get up in the lap traffic, if that will affect them at all.
Keep in mind, some of that respective traffic was in part with some of the attrition from earlier. That is James Burke, who is up the road. James Burke already had a lengthy 1-minute pit stop after the troubles early on in this respective race. James Burke tries to stay up towards the high side. Connor Berry stays to the middle of the racetrack, coming up towards the final corners now to close things out for heat number 2. Connor Berry, in dominant fashion to the final corner, will take the checkered flag. Connor Berry wins heat number 2 of the season. Second spot goes to Crystal King, able to hold off Zach Knowles. And the last driver to move on in a transfer spot, Shane Paul, rounds out the top 4. First driver out, Andrew Keepers-Taylor.
What a drive indeed for Connor Berry, Crystal King, Zach Knowles, and Shane Paul, for all of them to avoid the attrition. As for everyone else, well, they still have a chance. They got to go through the LCQs to get things going, but overall, a great race overall for Heat Race 2.
Some of the last drivers completing themselves here. Tyson Miller has recovered from being flipped upside down to be on the circuit to finish inside 17th position. But the last drivers in terms of lead lap positioning to finish this one will be Cox, Patino, and Shea Price. Did have some issues this lap, we are hearing though as well. So let's take a look at your race results for heat number 2. Connor Berry, 3.9 seconds, the difference between Berry and King. Knowles, Paul, Keepers, the top 5. Keepers, the first one out. Carpenter, Lester, Pieta, Hill, Sabre, the top 10 in the 20-truck field. Entertaining to say the very least. As you see, the drivers finishing things up. Shea Price, as a result of his troubles, finishes as far deep as 18th. But with that, it's time to head towards Heat 3. Third and final heat for tonight's action. And it'll be Darren Hardesty who will start from the first spot. Christopher Plumley starts second. Mason Prater, qualified in the midst of the top 10, starts third in this one. Bryce Samino starts in fourth with Andre Orson in fifth. Nick Larson starts in sixth to round out those positions, Taylor.
As we move on to the 7th position is Brock Smith, followed by Lon Franks in the 8th position. Rounding out your top 10 will be Blake Beatty and Dalton Hayden. As we move outside into the rest of the field, 11th goes to Ryan Linder, Jordan Sims in 12th.
Franklin Monac starts in 13th with Miles Morris in 14th. Then you have Cameron McGeesiak in 15th. For men starts 16th. Sean Brightsman trying to take a swing at racing in the Pro 4 trucks tonight. 17th, no more for stock cars. Tanner Baso and Brian Clement round out the 19 drivers who will be in this third and final heat. Again, 6 laps, top 4 advance. Top 2 were inverted in terms of their starting positions for this one. They have about a few moments, Dave, to regather themselves up. What can you pick up from the first 2 heats that you may see the drivers try and adjust to or try and avoid, let's say? in this heat?
Well, I think it's avoiding contact is key right here, especially after we saw in that second heat, a lot of contact going on out there. I mean, that's going to happen. It's the first round of the season, it's kicking the season off. Everybody says, I'm going to be that guy into the first out of the turn. Well, 4 positions are going to go to the dance. You might have to slow down. You might have to think about this a little bit. Sometimes, I hate to say it, slower is faster. Get back there. People start flipping around you. You're going to get up in position.
The drivers
it's off-road. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Great point. Great point.
Gloves off.
It is off-road. A lot of these drivers try and see if they will not need those gloves in terms of some of the fisticuffs we may see here. The drivers have just about finished up as they are all set to rev their engines to see who will move on to the feature. Green flag is out. Off and away for heat number 3. A good launch from the middle of the pack this time for the Land Rush. The first of the drivers breaking their way nearly single file is Mason Prater. Hardesty keeping it side by side. 4 wide in the midst of the corner. One driver rides on top of another and is sent over the wall. 3 wide in the midst of the pack.
Chaos here as one car goes end over end right there. Couldn't catch who that was as they come out of Potawatomi turn 1. But as they come out of turn number 2, heading down the skybox straight over to the Polaris gravel pit, we'll see if more calamity happens.
Speaking of calamity, how about 3 wide? Coming through by Lon Franks. Franks makes the long leap, jumps up inside the top 3. Franks in past weeks become noteworthy when it comes to some of this racing outside of these trucks and when it comes to dirt racing action on the sim. He's now up to 3rd. The rest of the drivers started single file out, but the leaders are making contact. Hardesty and Prater make contact as Prater apologizes on the radio.
You see Prater there with the number 1 on his machine there. Great shot of him there. Prater and Hardesty, I'll tell you, when they get out there and they're racing together, they race terrific cars together as kids. You know, they know how to bring the competition. But when it comes down to it, they are going to not try and take each other out. That's what the key is. They'll bump, they'll beat, but they're not going to do it out of being malicious.
Meanwhile, though, Prater trying to hug the inside. Hardesty gets a little tap. Very, very edgy there going through the jumps this time. Back and forth as Hardesty nearly jumps on top of Prater.
Meanwhile, a little further back, you have that 4th position of Nick Larson. He is under immense pressure from the 55 of Tor Andre Borison, who is in there. He made some big heroic moves as they come out of the gravel pit, heading over to the legendary lead before making their way into Calamity Corner. We'll see if the lead switches over once again as here comes Mason Prater. Darren Hardesty trying to get to the inside, gives a little bit of a love tap right there as they come next up to the McCoy finish line and now over to the Champion Power Corner.
Here's a look on board, meanwhile, for the race leader and Prater. Much more tighter this respective heat, keep in mind, compared to the previous ones. There had been a previous separation of about a second plus after the opening laps, but this time the pack is keeping up. Larson now trying to hold on to 4th, though. Borison is staying within range this time for the slide. See the dirt being kicked on up as Borison dives his way to the inside. Can't make the move, though, on Larson.
Well, I can tell you, coming out of Cowboys Corner there, one of the quick lines you can see a lot of the drivers are going to take that high entrance low with a high exit. It's hitting that apex and you're out front. But when you're a little bit deeper in the field, that doesn't pay off too well.
Meanwhile, for the number 55 machine, trying to take a little of the higher groove as well. Keep in mind that machine has already had a lot of bumping and banging, Taylor. Some parts of that front end are crunched in. For the top 5, separation about 2.9 seconds amongst them. The top 2, though, only 0.4 differentiate themselves.
You're talking about some of the toughest trucks in all of motor racing. These trucks are utilized in short course racing. You see them race in the Baja 500, Baja 1000, and so many more racing events off-roading, and they can handle any beating and banging that you see happening here on this circuit at Crandon, and they are putting on a great show as they come out of Aragon Corner, heading over to the Cowboy Hairpin coming up. But Borison definitely a man on a mission right now as he's trying to find his way to the inside of Nick Larson as they come through the Cowboy Hairpin. Gives a little bit of a nudge, sends them around just barely. They gather it back up, more contact as they come down the front straightaway, heading over to Potawatomi.
Keep in mind for Nick Larson from Gladstone, Michigan, one of the drivers who came from the regional side of things. Top 3, in fact, in 2021 competition. Looking very strong in national competition so far. Is nearly bumping up for the bicycle, Borison.
You know, one of the things about these short course trucks, these short course trucks are only raced in short course, where the desert trucks, trophy trucks are considered, you know, a little bit different, a little bit more travel out there, a little bit different setup. These things have a lower center of gravity, and it's because of all the turning that they do. And you can see there's a little bit of body roll, but they keep these trucks really low. And these are four-wheel drive trucks in real life, not full-time four-wheel drive, meaning only when the throttle's engaged is that front wheel engaged in the front locker. As soon as they release the gas pedal, it actually disengages the front differential, allows the truck to rotate around. As soon as they get back on the gas, it's going to pull them out. So a little bit of difference here, and you can kind of see why these things handle so well through these tight turns.
Especially with a lot of these battles, but as we've seen, confidence is king if you want to make a pass. Morrison has the confidence, but can't make the move. Looking for that time to Cowboys hairpin back single file amongst them. The top two have taken the chance. Taylor in turn to pull away. Coming up to 2 to go this time. Hardesty keeping up with Prater though.
Certainly are, as they're trading fastest lap of the races right now. Currently, Prater set the fastest lap of the race, as well as last time by with a 1:17.232. As we see Darren Hardesty run a 17.535, so they are definitely some of the fastest competitors, some of the fastest lap times we've seen in these heat races so far. As we watch them come through Calamity Corner, we should be seeing the 2 to go this time by.
They'll take that as Borison still keeping things interesting. Lon Franks continues to lead this respective grouping though. Franks, the Pied Piper, in third position, but the bubble spot still in control by Larson. What can Borison do? Because he's tried to dive to the inside a few times, Dave. Has not been able to fully get on by. Has tried to pass several times in Cowboys hairpin already.
Well, unfortunately, he's going to have to wait until they get up in a little bit of traffic, I think, to slow down in front of him. That's one of the big keys right there for sure. And you can see that's how you want to do. You got to get a slide job underneath. Not able to make it happen, but, you know, that's a good way. You set the driver up, and then maybe the next time around, that last lap, is when you change your lineup, and that can usually sometimes come into your favor and make a pass.
Separate them out, by the way, by about 2-3 track lengths. Expecting the white flag this time by in the final heat race as Borison sends himself into the wall. Good truck control to hold on. The 55 stays within range, Dave.
Yeah, Borison, you know, starting a little overdrive. I think he's getting a little frustrated, and that's what happens when you're in the back. You know you're just outside the bubble there, so you're going to push it just a little bit. And you can see it got him into a little trouble. He's got to calm down. He's got to breathe. Larson is between him and a qualifying position.
Look at this!
There it is.
Borison bullies his way past Larson. Larson tries to bully him back. Final lap for Heat 3. Borison now into the bubble spot. How does Larson respond as they get ready for the run to Cowboys hairpin next corner?
Oh, I'm sure there's some heated words coming through with his mute button on right now. That is frustrating, and I tell you, waiting for that white flag, well, he waited just before the white flag. But look at this, he's going to answer back, but Borison had the same line that Larson did the last time in front of him.
Larson has a couple chance indeed, Dave, to try and get this around. Taylor, this is going to get tight, though, for Larson. Last time through this section, these drivers bounced off the walls trying to battle.
They certainly did, and as they come out of Potawatomi over into the Ponce turn 2, gets right up against that wall as they head down the skybox straight. Here comes Larson with a head of steam as they head to the gravel pit for the final time.
Here comes Larson, trying to feed a bit of the door. No contact. Borison hugs the inside. Up the road, Prater will take the check with Hardesty second. Franks in third. But who will get the spot? Here comes Borison. Old will hold on. Checker flag waves. Prater, Hardesty, Franks, Borison, the top 4.
Well, that was one heck of a race, I got to tell you, folks. Very impressed with Borison right now. Very nice driving. He collected himself after having that contact with the wall. He got a deep breath, and he waited for his chance.
An incredible drive indeed in that battle for position for the cameraman and owner of motorsportfilmer.net. Racecraft TV RX2 champion from 2021. The final transfer for the features goes to Borison, but it's Prater who takes the victory. The lead calmed down to 1.2 seconds, the differential between Prater and Sti Jr. to the checkered. Lon Franks gained 5 spots to move up to third in the span of a lap. The first driver out, Larson. Very quiet runs for Libner, Clement, rest of the pack. But now it's time to go LCQ racing. And now it comes down to essentially with how things are structured now. 3 drivers will advance to the feature just 4 laps to get the job done. Sherlock and Larson start first and second. Carpenter and Sanders third and fourth. Clement and Prieta round out the top 6, Taylor.
Then it's Trenton Briley starting in the 7th position with Cameron Mageshik in the 8th position. Matt Sobre will be starting in the 9th position with Donnie Stabiditz starting in the top 10. Christopher Plumley was starting in 11th with Luis Patino rounding out your top 12.
Trey Blank, we've seen, was amidst of that long conga line train in one of the heat battles. He'll start alongside Brandon Furman. Top Soleil starts in 15th with Anthony Aldio in 16th. Tanner Basso starts in 17th. James Burke rounds out the top 18, Taylor.
Tom Grady along with Miles Morse will round out your top 20. Then it's Shea Price, Devin Allen, and Dalton Hayden rounding out your 23-car field. Or truck field, I should say.
Yes. Now, if any mistakes happen, you're essentially out of the contention for the feature here. Try and make a spot, Dave. How wild do you think this could be here? Because in 30 seconds, 23 drivers will fight for just 3 spots.
Let's see. You ever see the running of the bulls in Pamplona, Spain? Well, this is going to be, I think pretty much everybody's going. They all want to make the show tonight, and I think that's going to be the biggest keys. Who gets out there, out in front, is going to set the tone. And we've already seen Heat 2, Heat 3, a lot of carnage. This is going to be no different. LCQs are crazy.
Especially keep in mind that run through Forest County, Powerwhelming turn 1. Lots of contact with drivers going as wide as 7 wide. Span of what is essentially 3 lanes at the very most for trucks. But the drivers have gotten themselves all set to go. LCQ1 is all set to go. 1 driver just jumped the start. A second just jumped before the green lights. We're off and away. And a good launch this time from Larson. Already clear, and 1 driver spins themselves to the pack. 1 driver to the very pack of the grouping. That's Pieta has spun himself around. 4, 5, 6 trucks are flipping upside down.
I think half the field we just lost.
Amongst them, Hayden, Basso, Grady, several more have just crashed. The top 3 have already ran away from the rest of the Hornet's Nest. Larson, Sherlock, Sanders, a clean launch, Taylor, to get away from the madness.
I think we need to change Potawatomi Turn 1 over to change the name to Calamity Corner, because that's where we've seen all of the chaos here tonight at Crandon as they now approach the official Calamity Corner as we see Titus Sherlock moves up to the race lead ahead of Nick Larson, and a great pass indeed as Noah Sanders gets on the back bumper of, you see Nick Larson as they work their way toward the back half of the course, heading through the power slide over into Aragon Corner, turn number 9.
Sanders
Aragon Corner is always fast. Sorry.
Absolutely. Yes, indeed, Dave. Go ahead.
I was just going to say Aragon Corner is always one of the quickest corners we're going to see with these guys. You know, in the first lap, that's where you're going to really be able to start making passes. After that, you're going to have to wait until later in the race.
Meanwhile, Sabre trying to keep up with the battle with Sanders. A bit of contact already amongst them. Sabre, the first driver to pull away from the rest of the grouping, though. Everybody else already a second plus behind, in part because, look at the backdrop. Clement is under attack by Christopher Plumley, who is one of the top drivers in terms of qualifying speeds, Taylor, who is still trying to fight to get inside the top 5 in this LCQ.
He doesn't have much time, though. He's got, as they come around, they're already getting the halfway point here this time by as they come through the gravel pit, heading over to the legendary leap. As one car, there it goes to 23 on two wheels. That's Nicholas Dachelet as they come through the legendary leap. Now back over into Calamity Corner as tempers are flaring, I hear, over the radio.
That's because one of the battles in the heart of the pack, Devin Allen, just got turned around. That was a miss nearby there. Meanwhile, still, the 3-car pack is now a 4-truck pack, should say. Sabra's kept up. Here's a look at what happened that just caused a lot of words popped up. The super clean truck gonna get a not so clean ending to this exit.
Who absolutely just gets turned around, and big error for one of those drivers. I believe could not catch who that was. That might have been the 91 Patino, who was end over end there, as we're on board with Titus Sherlock and Nick Larson, that they are the top two right now. Noah Sanders holding strong in that third position over Matt Sobre in the fourth spot. About 1.2 seconds separates those two.
The top three doing what they need to do, but Sobre trying hard to keep up, though, and this is going to be the most difficult part. Trying to battle along and keep up with the top spots to try and move on to the feature race. This has been the trend throughout the night, Dave. If you are not in that main pack early on, it's very difficult to close up and join that pack in front in turn. Keep in mind, for the Santa Clara, California-based driver.
Well, yeah, one of the things, too, we've seen a lot of these vehicles, they do show damage from back there. That is going to slow the vehicles down a little bit. So if you were early on caught up in that melee that happened on turn number 1 in the first lap, it's going to slow you down. But, you know, once you get back past that 5th position, sometimes these drivers tend to overdrive, tend to push the car, and you can see, as we just saw one, flip off the track. And that's what happens.
Well, here's the thing. The truck that you were talking about, wonder if we can get a look at this before we take the white, because that was Nicholas Dachelet, who was running in 6th position. Guess who kept going after flipping 4 or 5 times, Dave, in one corner?
Well, you can see definitely right up and over. And, you know, I got to say that just reminded me what happened to Travis Pastrana, exact same corner last year at Crandon in real life.
Just keeping on going in turn with that. Only lost 2 spots.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the battle going on still, you see. Sabre trying to figure things on out in the battle going on with Plumley. Plumley's now up to 4, but now the leaders have a lot of traffic to deal with the white flag waving. Hunter Carpenter is just bumped by the leaders. A couple more drivers are already trying to figure out where they need to go, with some of the drivers trying to keep up.
They are certainly working their way through as they come out of Aragon Corner, heading down the back straightaway over towards the Cowboy Hairpin. Great racing here as Titus Sherlock tries to hold on one more slide through the Cowboy Hairpin. Here comes Nick Larson. Noah Sanders tries to send it a little deeper, but can't quite make the pass stick, though he'll have a couple of more attempts to see if he can gain another spot.
By the way, bad news if you're a fan of Dachelet, he's been sent to the moon as a result of iRacing things. Hence why the time will seem towards the top. But the drivers looking to close things on out here for this time around. Sherlock has been dominant in this respective run. Larson and Sanders still 2nd and 3rd. Happy how they finish is the question. Final runs this time on through. This time making their way through Polaris gravel pit. Larson losing ground this time to Sherlock. Sherlock has been able to find his way on forward to the final corner this time. For the jump this time to the McCoy finish line. Sherlock wins the first LCQ. Larson and Sanders move on, Dave.
One of the things that the LCQ never brings disappointment and excitement and in action on the track. They sure brought it tonight.
Absolutely did. And for some of the drivers, they definitely felt the attrition build up.
Yep.
But in the end, Sherlock, Larson, and Sanders are the first 3 to survive through the trouble and able to never look back and turn from it. Plumley, Yeshiak, the first drivers out. Sabre dropped back to 6th for the checkered. Burke, Morse, Clement, Blank, the top 10. Only 22 drivers did take the green, it is worth noting, out of those respective drivers. One did not take the start. That would have been Donnie Staubitz, who missed the green flag. And of note, Joshua, as a result of being launched up to the moon, finished one lap down in 16th after that tumbleweed on around the corner. But now it's time to turn the corner to CQ2. Andrew Keeper starts on the pole for this respective one, with Race Newer in second, Ryan Linder, Bill Lester third and fourth, Roland Johns and Bryce Samino the top six. Taylor.
Jake Hill will be starting in the 7th spot with Aiden Irving in the 8th spot. Brock Smith will be starting in 9th with Eric Scott rounding out your top 10. Sawyer Tinker will be starting in the 11th position with Jordan Sims rounding out your top 12.
Right on behind in the respective starting order, Austin Bolison. Well, he amongst those in the second row of trucks launching. Scott Posey, Franklin Amanak, Miller, Crosby. Amongst the last of the drivers. The engines are already revving, though. They want to get running. They want to go racing. It's time to do so. One does not catch up and get the memo, though. Off and away we go as Jake Hill goes from 7th to last. Andrew Keepers looks to lead into the first run to the corners. 3 wide in the midst of the pack. Will anyone flip over this time? How about 4 or 5 more try and pick up sticks in the corner exit? Oh, and one just did a somersault. Roland Sean's upside down in the corner. Several more crashing. As one gets picked up along the wall, Ryan Linder from the top 5.
I think a lot of people are still there, too.
I think we lost half the pack right now.
I think that was even bigger than the last one. Dennis Crosby just finished flipping as well. Look at this, though.
It's not over yet.
And then they go for stage 2. And then they gather it up for stage 3. That's just up the road here. Then they decide,
and wait,
you know what?
There's more.
Let's knock down some billboards. And let's go to the moon.
I think we have a bunch of new space cadets for the Podium Esports space program here tonight. I think we'll be picking up a lot more of them throughout this iRacing short course season as calamity is happening over at Cowboy Hairpin. Multiple cars looping around and they're still wrecking as they come out of the hairpin.
That's right behind Newer and Company by at least a corner plus. They've all straightened out. It should be worth noting, though. How crazy has the start been, by the way? The driver who started in 20th position, Cross Kirchmeier, has jumped up to the 5th position. Yes, you heard that right. That's a plus 15 in 3 corners of a lap.
And that is not usual. That happens in real life so much here in Crandon. Sometimes you'll have nobody crash, but when there's a crash, it's going to take out 4, 5, 6, 7 guys. So very common.
Drivers will have to be careful, though, such as Roland Johns. He's wearing VR, by the way, and was one of the drivers who flipped over, so that doesn't help things, potentially. There's also Ryan Linder, who was in 5th to start the race. He just got hit by Eric Cox because he was that truck stopped along the edge of the circuit, you may have noticed. By the way, we just finished the first lap, finally. Reese Newer and Andrew Keepers first and second. Irvin, the last driver in currently, in 3rd position. The separation growing already, though, over Bill Lester.
Talk about Bill Lester in that 180. He was able to survive all that calamity that happened around him. Did a great drive indeed for his run. As you're now on board, as we look a little further back as they head over to Potawatomi turn number 1. Just sliding through there as they head over to Panofsky turn 2. Great battling amongst the field right here. That is the 75 of Cross Kirchmeier, who now moves up into the 4th spot, has his sights set on Aiden Irvin to get up a little bit, but he has about 1.5 seconds to catch up.
Yeah, that's going to be the big thing. Will he have enough time to keep up with only a couple laps to go this time for the driver based out of the state of Texas? Someone who has won state championships in XC dirt bikes, ATVs, and side-by-sides. And also just so happened to win a one-off SXS race at the Mud Nationals, as well as at several other events in terms of that run. So a lot of talent there, all while Reese Newer continues to lead the field.
Yeah, he's definitely a quick one in the side-by-sides, that's for sure.
Absolutely, Kirchmeier trying to run and pull ahead forward still to Urban. Still That separation nearly 2 seconds.
Now, I don't know if you guys have noticed what he has on the wrap, the Dumb and Dumber, the Mutt Cuts.
I didn't make the connection to that film.
I did. That was hilarious.
I thought that was a real sponsor.
Yeah, I just had to throw it out there. He's even got the nose and the tongue on the front of the truck. Awesome, Reese. But I'm noticing a lot of these drivers will have ones that emulate big, well-known drivers to being unique like Reese. It really makes you stand out. One thing I've always told these drivers, do something that's going to make the announcer notice you. We noticed that.
Yes, indeed. Meanwhile, guess who we're noticing? A car coming out of the pits and nearly hitting third. Nathan Ramsey nearly turned the bubble driver.
Well, that was a quick hot pit exit there.
White flag is waving, by the way, and Ramsey's letting drivers go. Keep in mind that pit exit right out of the corner exit right there. Hello.
Talk about a hold your breath kind of moment right there, Justin, as they come out of Calamity Corner to avert the calamity we just saw, as we see Reese Newer heading over to Cowboy Hairpin for the final time. He's got keepers hot on his tail as they come out of there. And then, of course, Aiden Irvin in a comfortable 1 second lead now as they come out of the hairpin for the final time.
Kirchmeier, despite being one of the quickest drivers on the racetrack, running out of time. Meanwhile, Newer, the driver with the quickest lap times total, looking to close things on out in this one. A big crash for 15th on back, but the leaders, they don't have to worry about that because it will close out this LCQ this time around. Reese Newer started front row, second position total. Will the drivers quick in his respective heat now for Reese Newer? Final corner this time, coming up. This time around to the McCoy finish line. Reese Newer will bring that machine to the checkered. Reese Newer wins the LCQ. Keepers, Urban, the top three. Kirchmeier, the first one out. But what a drive for the 75.
Got to give a big round of applause for Cross Kirchmeier, who came up and gaining 16 positions. And how about Reese Newer when we saw him on camera giving a big fist bump, showing a wave to the camera? And I got to say, he's going to be a personality that's going to be fun to watch this season.
Lots of drivers finishing things on up. Of note, one driver did get involved in an incident. Scott Posey, Sawyer Tinker. We'll see things shuffle outside the top 10, but it's Newer, Keepers, Urban, the top three who move on to the feature directly. The rest of the drivers are done. Kirchmeier, Lester, fourth and fifth. Beatty, Smith. What a recovery, though, for Jake Hill. Remember how he missed the start in terms of not getting on the gas, Dave? Because of, well, everybody else flipping upside down in front of him, he recovered from being 5 to 10 truck lengths back into that corner to still finish in the top 10.
And that was so impressive. And I got to say, he's one of our younger drivers out there in real life. He races the Razor 170s. He's, trophy carts. Just a little guy. And the way he drives, man, I'll tell you, he goes toe-to-toe with the big kids. Not a problem.
Some wild action so far, but the action continues on in just the next few moments. iRacing Short Course National Series action continues right after this quick side-by-side. You're watching Podium Esports from the virtual Crandon International Raceway in the state of Wisconsin. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Podium Esports coverage of tonight's action for the virtual Crandon. And it has been a wild season opener, to say the very least. Justin Brent, Taylor Burris lined up alongside Dave Arnold as we get ready for feature racing. Starting things off with you, Taylor. Your opinions on how things have fared out so far, especially with attrition reigning supreme to the point where you have drivers flipping for about a quarter of the racetrack.
I gotta say, it's absolute chaos. It's absolute calamity heading over into Panawasi turn number 1. Ponzi is also another area where we see a lot of chaos happening through there. But overall, it's just a matter of surviving the first set of corners. If you can do that, you have a good shot of finishing strong, or better yet, even winning the race. And as well, we're going to see who gets the best jump on this start of today's race and be able to pull away.
But even with some of the craziness, though, Dave, you have to think about, too, there's been a lot of great racing in terms of some of the battles, but also some great drives in turn to start off the respective campaigns.
Definitely. I mean, a lot of these drivers, you know, the ones that do make it through the first turn, like Taylor said, they're the ones right now that you're going to have to be smart. Once they get up through that, then you got to be smart the rest of the race, and that's what's going to be. But also, with the action that goes on there, the guys in the back, if they just hold off a little bit, let that all clear and drive through it, you know, stay the high side is all I got to say.
Now, want some predictions from both of you. Starting off with you, Taylor. Who do you feel will be the driver that will be the one who can take the checker flag tonight, especially seeing a lot of the great speed from all the heat races, especially heats 1 and 2?
Looking at throughout all the heat races we've seen, you got to look at those that kind of pulled away from the rest of the field. And some of those drivers, I have to say, that had this pace, that were able to do that. Keaton Swain, he had the fastest good lap of the race during practice and qualifying. Keep an eye on him to see what he can do. As far as maybe some other drivers to watch, you got Crystal King, had a great run in her heat race. Also Mason Prater, as well, a defending champion who knows a thing or two about getting around this circuit here at Crandon. Make sure to watch him as well.
What about you, Dave?
Well, I'm not going to disagree at all with Taylor, but I'm going to throw some other names in there too. Zach Drapkin and Darren Hardesty, you know, have been just incredible. Keep an eye on Drapkin.
It's going to be very entertaining, to say the very least, once this action gets underway. Right now, drivers are finishing up the warm-up session before they head into the feature race. Once again, I'd like to take the time to thank the sponsors for the 2022 season, this respective series: CBR Performance Products, Sports Data, Super Clean, Dirt Sports World, Signature Propellers, Positive Beverage, and Smith Graphics for being a part of this series. On that note, the drivers are just about all set to go feature racing. 12 laps with a competition caution at the end of lap 5 to see who will start off the campaign with a victory. The top 4 have been inverted, keep in mind, when it comes to their starting positions. Guess who's in control of the inside first row? It's Zachary Drapkin. Mason Prater will start second. Barry and Swain will start third and fourth. Both of them had dominant heat race victories. Crystal King, she starts in fifth. Darren Hardesty Jr. kept up with Prater in the respective heat race for number 3 of the night. Taylor, that's going to be a driver to watch from 6th.
Certainly is going to be one to watch as we move on to the 7th position of Felix Roy. Zach Knowles will be starting in 8th alongside Lon Franks. Terry Miller had a great run as well during his heat race. 11th goes to Shane Paul, and probably one of the most exciting and entertaining drivers of the night, Tor Andre Borison, rounds out your top 12.
The first driver right on behind will be Titus Sherlock, with Reese Newer straight for the LCQ to 14th. Nick Larson, Andrew Keepers, Noah Sanders, and Irvin will be the 18 drivers set to start off brand new season, or it is the first feature of the iRacing Short Course National Series campaign. About 40 seconds before the drivers are expected to make the land rush for the start of the first feature of the season. Dave, your keys to victory.
Get out front on the first turn and stay out of trouble. Can't say any more than that.
Especially with the trends, keep in mind, we've mentioned, absolutely. Going to be very wild to see who's able to get through cleanly through turn 1. drivers were able to settle on down by the time to get to the Polaris gravel pit. Just about 10 seconds to go, though, before the green flag waves and the launch gets underway. Freaking Prater, Harry Swain, the top 4. The clock now reaching its final couple seconds now. The first feature of the 2022 season is all set to go. Crandon is all set and buckled in. The drivers are revving their engines. Barney the flagman all set to go as the green flag waves were underway from Crandon. Drapkin with the good launch the inside. Prater trying to keep a side-by-side movement. Connor bearing 3 wide. 2x2 and 3x3 on behind. A clean run this time to the first corner. One driver runs 45 degrees sideways, Zach Knowles, and is able to hold on, but it's 3 wide for the lead. Drapkin loses the inside. Prater puts him in the wall. Prater makes contact with him to the wall. Prater puts himself in the wall. Barry side by side for the run to the Polaris gravel pit for the first time as Barry tries to park it in front for the lead and does.
How about this battle here as they come over to Calamity Corner? Will we see more chaos? One car end over end. That's the 15 of Reese Newer, who will go on to his lid in the Mutts Cuts machine. As we now go back up to the front of the field, Keaton Swain now doing what he's been doing all night long, getting the race lead and staying up front. Contact, though, as they come out through Aragon Corner. Connor Berry wants to lead this race.
A lot of bumping and banging as they start and settle single file inside the top 4. Crystal King the first battle side by side for 5th. Here's a look at Connor Berry as that fan works hard to pump along Berry. Berry not electing to go for the slide for the send this time. Tries to keep it side by side though for the exit. Behind them, Sherlock launched his way past several drivers. Sherlock started 13th, is already up to the top 5.
Yes, indeed. What a battle indeed as we ride and watch this replay. Watch what Sherlock does. 1, 2. Does he get the other one? He just parks it right in front of Crystal King and moves on ahead, picking up a few spots into the top 5 as we go back up towards the front of the field. Keaton Swain, Connor Berry having a great battle amongst themselves as we watch also Mason Prater closing in on this battle for the top 2.
Now they make their way once again towards the run, towards Calamity Corner. See the look from Prater meanwhile. Starting to get a little bit of breathing room. Prater not as quick through that corner though, losing a bit of ground to Barry and Swain. Those two are all over each other though for the race lead in front, Dave.
Definitely, but one of the things, I don't know if we've talked about, but some of these drivers set the trucks up for either really quick at the beginning or quicker at the end. How much fuel load you're taking, that has a lot to do with too, with weight in the vehicle. You know, sometimes you got to time it out just right. So I'm going to say that's coming into play. I'm going to see some other drivers, or we will see some drivers start to move their way up after the caution. And that's also another part of the plan these drivers have. Wait to the comp caution, then you roll the dice.
A good point indeed to think about the big picture side of things. Seeing one of those drivers in the midst of that train up at the front, that is Drake Kid, who is shuffled to 4th spot after the start. It's going to be interesting turn which drivers you see tendency-wise, Dave, go with that direction based on your experience. Keep in mind, there is a competition caution coming up at the end of the 5th lap.
Well, I can tell you right now, I mean, Sherlock has been one of those drivers, but Darren Hardesty's been famous for that. He'll be really deep in the field for the first part of the race and then slowly move his way up. So keep an eye on them. Prater, always really fast all through the whole race. Same with, of course, Connor Berry. I mean, these two kids, they've had it dialed. It's just a different strategy the drivers have.
Keep in mind, Hardesty is in 15th position. See if that works out after the competition caution.
I'm not going to say he's going to run up to the front, but keep an eye on him. That kid will move up through the pack.
Having to be careful, though, especially since Nick Larson you've seen just hit the wall. But Swain starting to get some breathing space. Bit of trouble for Borison, meanwhile, though. Borison has crashed in the midst of the corner. This time, the run through turn 10, Cowboys hairpin has become a trouble spot for the 55.
Tough break for both Borison and Shane Paul as we take a look here at the replay of what happened. And
Whoa!
Talk about getting punted.
Punted and didn't make it over the railing just yet, but apparently just Shane Paul did not have any brakes whatsoever. Let's take a look at this from the view of Franks as they come over to the Cowboy hairpin and make it. They're going through contact and could not make it break enough, and that round goes Paul, and then up over the edge almost is Torreson. As there you see right here, here's Jake Paul, or Shane Paul.
Yeah, this is the look I want to see here, Dave, because I can't tell if that was just late lift, to help with the contact. This is a strange one.
I don't think he ever lifted.
Hearing he may have been on the brakes. Look committed, though.
Sliding. Just way too much speed going in the corner. That's one of the things.
As you might have guessed, he's been given a black flag for that.
Yeah.
Up towards the
Not
very
surprised.
Yes, indeed. Paul is already also in the garage.
Yeah, Keaton Swain, though, I mean, so impressed with that. He's a driver in real life, so it translates really well. But to see the progress that he's made from the beginning of last year to through the end of last year in the season, but to see him setting the tone right now, pretty impressed.
And the Arizona-based driver, in very sporty, especially Connor Berry, known for a long repertoire of sim racing action. Right on behind still, keeping the pressure up. Next time by, Comp Yellow. So they start lap 5 this time. Then the true battles will start to show themselves in their respective hands. Prater nearly sends himself on the racetrack, though, for the battle for third. Prater now is under attack, side by side with Drakekin.
Here they come through Aragon corner, and here comes the crossover from Prater. They're going to go side by side down the back straightaway, but Drakekin will be able to hold on to that third position as they now head over into the Cowboy hairpin. To the inside is Prater. Drakekin tries to make the outside work. Crossover, a little bit of a nudge right there as they come out of Cowboy corner and continue on their way to Potawatomi.
So, Prater, after making a bit of a mistake, making the run towards turn 8, Walker Evans Racing corner, able to hold on to that third spot. Tripkin with a hard hit to the suspension, nearly to the back end of Prater. Again, competition caution coming up this time by at the stripe. Look from the viewpoint and look at the wheel movement. And look at the slide and the cross coming up to the competition caution.
Beautiful move by Prater.
Prater getting a love tap though. Trapkin trying to get it back. Competition caution, race control now, slowing the field down. Swain, Berry, Prater, Drapkin, Sherlock, the top 5. Impressive run so far for these respective competitors, Taylor.
Very impressive run here as they work their way at 50 or 35 miles an hour. As they continue on, and as we look through the field, everyone's going to be lined up to re-rack them and stack them.
Let's take the time to look at the upcoming events across the iRacing world as well, because New Year brings a lot of racing in turn, and it's starting to pick back up on the service in turn, starting with SimMax Cup Series powered by MPI action at Darlington. That's on January the 9th at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time. You can catch that at twitch.tv/Podium Esports. Then Monday Night Racing goes road course racing at the Red Bull Ring in the Porsche RSR, starting with Road to Glory action at 7 p.m., followed by the Pro Series. Catch that Podium 1 for RTG and Pro Series on Podium 2. Then Operation E-Motorsport in its iRacing League heads to the Daytona Road Course. Battle on the sea. Who can conquer center of racing? Coverage starts January 11th. 8 p.m. Eastern, youtube.com/Operation Motorsport. And also keep an eye on the S-Rock presented by Shenandoah Shine Race as it goes to Charlotte Motor Speedway. January 12th, 9 p.m. Eastern on Podium. Meanwhile, we're back to racing, and off and away we go from the competition caution going to the start zone. Swain with a good launch. Berry not as big of a launch though. Taylor is already under attack from Prater and Company.
Certainly is, as they come over to the Polaris gravel trap and then work their way over to the great leap of the legendary leap of Polaris as they work their way now through Calamity Corner. A great run for Swain, but Barry, Prater, and Drakekin battling it out. Here comes Crystal King now to the inside of Titus Sherlock as they work their way through the power slide there and head their way over to Aragon Corner.
Here's a look, meanwhile, at Crystal King. She's in 6th position. A little bit lower line, trying to defend as well. With Zach Knowles, no sends this time as to make their way toward Cowboys Hairpin. Seen some big sends in this corner. No major sends for the top 4 yet. A bit of a bump for Sherlock to the dirt. Off towards the berm. King making contact with someone inside. Zach Knowles just got spun.
You can see the different setups as they come through Cowboys Corner there, and I'll tell you, it's outside, inside, and this replay is going to really show how the different setups are there, especially when Crystal King comes in. There is a little too much speed into Titus and a little bit of contact there, and you can see a little end result, other drivers getting caught up in it.
Well, racing, though, coming up to 5 laps to go this time. It's Light John for the race lead. Parking the bus is Connor Berry. Berry to the point for the first time tonight.
And that was a textbook. And I'll tell you, coming out of the gravel pit, always a great setup before the leap there. A lot of slide jobs, a lot of passes have been done there.
Connor Berry taking the opportunity to get his first lap led for this feature. Now, with under 5 laps to go, can he hold on to it with Swain keeping the pressure up? Prater and Drepkin still keeping up in the lead group. Everyone else more than 3 seconds behind your race leader.
And talk about this too, Justin. Connor Berry just ran the fastest lap of a race with a 1:17.266. So he is absolutely flying both on the track as we now see Keaton Swain back on the attack to the inside as they come out of the Cowboy hairpin.
One of the best runs through that corner we've seen to keep it side by side. Swain tries the higher line. Bit of contact as he's fed the back end. Going through Potawatomi turn 1. Off through Hudson North American turn 2. Swain higher up on the racetrack. Prater with the viewpoint as Swain tries to keep it on up. This time through Skybox straight to the Polaris gravel pit again. This time to the high line goes Swain.
Swain is working with different angles. Sorry about that. But
yes, and those angles seem to be working well, though, Dave.
Yep.
Oh, and those angles just shut down hard.
Oh.
Swain with contact to the inside loses a lot of time. Connor Berry now pulls away by nearly a full second, Taylor. Swain trying to go into the inside, a move we've seen a couple times work tonight.
It certainly has worked a lot of times. One driver who pulled it off superbly was drivers such as Titus Sherlock and Tor Andre Borison early on in their respective heat races. Now it is happening to where we see the top drivers battle it out as we see on screen with Mason Prater, who's starting to pull away now from Zachary Drapekins and set his sight on Keaton Swain as they come over to Potawatomi. And now a great slide through there, carrying the momentum they need over to the Ponzi North America turn 2. And then as they climb the hill down the Skybox straight, it's going to be incredible to see if we can see a crossover in the gravel pit.
And you mentioned those different angles, Dave. Swain's been looking very comfortable in that. This time a little bit more tighter, it seems, for that apex, though. Not as sharp as a corner exit angle.
Going in sharp there, he already found out it's going to bite him going in that K-rail there as he came around there. So you can see this time going a little bit wider. Still shaving a little bit, but I think last time driving a little too aggressive there. He needs to slow it down, back down, collect himself. But you also can't let somebody like Connor get away because he will gap you.
Swain trying to push hard, it seemed, into that corner entry that time to prevent the chance to gap growing forward. Through from 9 off to Cowboys hairpin, coming up to 2 laps to go this time by. Top 4 separated by 2 seconds. Here comes the send from Swain. Towards the edge of the wall and the cushion. Not close up too much, still 6/10 back. Very quiet run though, Taylor, for Prater. Keeping himself clean. He has broken away from the 4th place car though, so it's a 3-car giggle for the lead.
It certainly is a gaggle of three right now for the race lead as you're on board with Mason Prater, your former defending series champion, as they come over to Panasi North American turn number 2. The number 1 machine just trying to see if he can run some more consistent laps and make up that time needed, but it's going to be difficult as we'll see the popsicle sticks in the air from Barney the Flagman. 2 laps to go.
Down to a couple to go indeed as they get themselves this time around the exit of Calamity Corner to that mark. Still, very quiet runs. Give a shout out to some drivers like King, still in 6th. Felix Roy quietly in 7th. Noah Sanders is the biggest mover in 8th position, up 9 spots. Also in that battle, 5th on back. Hardesty has been able to get up to 10th position after being towards the very back of the field early.
Going to move up, but I thought he would get a little bit more, but okay, 2 more laps to go. But just to let you guys know, a lot of history there with the Ponzi. That turn 1, that's a lot of the logging equipment, of course, all around them with all those forces. That's why it was cleared, that land was cleared all by the Ponzi equipment. So that's one of the reasons the great involvement there in Crandon.
So very important to know indeed, and keep in mind, that brand's still very big as well when it comes to some of the Wisconsin-based drivers moving through the ranks in multiple different disciplines. But
absolutely.
Now, they make their way underneath that bridge, expecting the white flag this time by. Up more corners till that mark. Barry is still in the lead. Swain within 6/10. Not enough time and not too much time to work with here, Taylor, to see how this can play out. Coming up to white flag this time.
One more time around. Could we see Keaton Swain try to find his way back around Connor Berry, or is it too little too late? We ride on board with Berry as he is about a second ahead of Swain as they head over to Aragon Corner for the final time.
Connor Berry, after some of the bobbles from Swain in that first sector, has pulled away a touch bit. No major jumps this time, taken by Swain. Berry looking to close things out. Attrition's built up for 5th on back. Swain hoping for some luck to catch up to Berry. But Connor Berry looking to close things out. Half a lap to go, Dave. And it all came down, keep in mind, to that move, approaching the competition caution.
Definitely, and of course, when these guys, when they overdrive a little bit, it slows them down. Sometimes, like I said earlier, I hate to be redundant, but slower is faster. Being smooth is the key. Watch Connor. He goes up high, comes down low, slides it out, and then he keeps that momentum up. He's not keeping too much of a steep angle on that vehicle, and that's why he's going to take this checker flag, and he's going to take the win here. Round 1.
Final time around, Connor Berry will get to celebrate. The first winner of the iRacing Short Course National Series for 2022 is Connor Berry. Berry wins at Crandon. Swain in 2nd, Prater, Drapkin, Sherlock, the top 5. What was a barn burner for much of the field and much of the night.
Certainly is a absolute exciting way. What a great way to kick off the season here for the iRacing Short Course Series. As we see here, of course, we'll be back here at Crandon in a couple of weeks' time, but let's go through the results, Justin.
Yes, indeed. And unofficial results, Berry coming away with the victory. 1.1 seconds, the differential between him and Swain, with Prater and Drapkin rounding out the top 4. Tyler Sherlock finished in 5th tonight, with Felix Roy in 6th. Noah Sanders and Crystal King round out the top 8. Knowles and Hardesty finished 9th and 10th, respectively.
Terry Miller will come home in 11th, followed by Andrews Kiefer in the 12th position. Lon Franks in 13th with Nick Larson in 14th. Aiden Irvin will come home in 15th, followed by Tor Andrea Borison in 16th. Reese Newer will come home in 17th. 1 DNF here for tonight. Shane Paul in that 39.
Couple things to note when it comes to points. Keep in mind and potential prizes. Most fast laps is a prize total for tonight. And for the season, should say. Connor Berry got the fastest lap with 1:17.2. There's also the award for the least incident points. That mark after that respective feature shared by Prater, Newer despite flipping, and Irvin with 2 apiece. Incredible start to the season, but it's Connor Berry who wins feature race number 1 of the 2022 season. Connor Berry now joins us at the broadcast booth. Connor, You're the first winner of the season. How does it feel to start off the campaign with the W?
Yeah, it feels awesome. It was a super fun race, and yeah, I mean, it was just fun. Me and Swain, we had a pretty good battle. I knew that Swain was going to be fast, and I knew that he was going to be the one who I was going to have to make the pass on 40 lead, and yeah, that's how it was. I knew if I didn't qualify first, it was going to be a pretty good race, and I qualified second, so it put me inside Heat 2, and I won my heat, and I started third for the main, came out at turn 1, and I think side by side with like a lot of the cars, and settled the first 5 laps in P2, and just waited for, I guess, the time to go for the pass, and I think I did the pass pretty good. I tried to not make contact, but I think it was good. I don't know if he is mad, but I thought that day was good. So it was a pretty cool race, and I'm glad that I could finally win in a race that I have put on.
Yeah, it's a lot of work indeed put in for this season in turn by you and a lot of the organizers for this respective campaign. But in terms of the battling two, your opinion on some of the difficulties drivers had to face tonight, because I know you have a lot of experience on the sim when it comes to this track, a lot of experience in the real world as well, but it seemed attrition was the name of the game until the feature.
I mean, my league has a wide spread of guys here. We have kids who are young and adults. So then we have adults who are like new to this game, and then kids who are new to this game. And then there's some kids like me who I am on this game quite a bit. So there's definitely some carnage, and I think there's some things what could be fixed, and for sure just trying to just get to the finish line is key. And then once you get to the the feature race, you know that it's just gonna be as clean as it gets in these trucks. So I mean, it's all about being consistent, smooth, and just trying not to get into the rear of the cars. Like me and Swain were like, we were like nose to tail those first couple laps, and I was just trying to just be smart and not end our nights, and that's what I did. So I mean, it's just about being smart here.
The next race for this season, Bark River, your opinion on how that could fare out and your confidence levels on that circuit?
Yeah, I mean, that track is fun. To me, it's just like here, just being smart and smooth and consistent. I feel pretty fast there. I still need to put in some work because I know Swain's fast too. So it's going to be cool. I think you will see something just like here, and I bet you we will see some more faces towards the front. It's only round 1, and I don't think people were expecting some of these speeds. So I think people will put in some more work and try their best to get faster and give us a run.
Indeed, an interesting night to say the very least. Anyone you want to give a shout out to after this one?
Sure. I want to give a big thanks to Jim Beaver Esports, CBR, Vision Wheel, General Tire, Next Level Racing, all of my admin staff, and you guys for doing this for my league.
Congratulations on the first feature race victory of the season. Congrats.
Thank you, guys.
Connor Berry, your winner tonight from Crandon. Keaton Swain led the first half of this one before that move after the competition caution round that set caution. Taylor Burris is catching up with Keaton Swain.
Here with Keaton Swain in his second place finish. Keaton, you started off strong in the early stages. Tell us what happened in that second half that allowed Connor Berry to get by you.
Yeah, he got close enough and threw a slide job, and it ended up being better on his end, but it was a clean move. And he definitely had a setup that favored him towards the end, so I got to go back to the drawing board and see if I can find a little more speed for the second half of the race.
What do you think is the difficulty when it comes to racing here for these longer distance, 12 laps here at Crandon, that showcases the talent as well as the maneuverability that you need to have when it comes to racing at this circuit?
Just minimizing your mistakes and being smooth. Big thing with these is, keeping them all on 4 wheels. If you can do that, usually you'll end up pretty solid. But overall, it was a good race for me. Good points day, good way to start the season. And, obviously, congrats to Connor and Mason on their good runs as well.
Well, Keaton, before we let you go and celebrate this podium, is there anyone you would like to say thank you to?
Yeah, I just got to thank everyone that helps me out. Appliance Parts Company, Factory Sim Sport, Sim Coach Pedals, ZK Designs. Obviously, you guys for putting on the broadcast, and everyone that supports Connor's series. It's a good first round. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Well, we look forward to seeing you at the next round. That is Keaton Swain coming home in second place. And of course, we get to talk to the defending series champion, Mason Prater. He is with Dave Arnold.
And man, I'll tell you, the bullseye was coming on your back as you come into this first round, 2 back-to-back championships. What was the pressure like coming in here?
Coming in, I knew it was going to be a really tough round. I mean, coming in, we were the back-to-back champions, so I knew everybody would be focusing on me, and that red number 1 plate really didn't help hide the fact that I was past champion. But, I mean, I knew coming in that these guys are going to be all fast and clean, and unfortunately, I'd been on a break from iRacing. I'd kind of burnt myself out over the last few seasons, so it was nice to kind of get out there, but running tonight really made me realize I got to get back on. I got to put in more work, and I got to get back to how I used to be up front. Because, I mean, Connor and Keaton, they're just so fast. Like, it's hard to keep up with them. They're so quick and smooth and consistent, and Zach kept me on my toes the whole entire race. So, I mean, coming in, I knew I was going to have to put in the work, but I didn't think I'd be that far off. But everybody put in the work over this offseason, so I'm going to know I have to put in that. I have to match their work ethic pretty much.
Well, when it came in tonight, though, and you finally get to the main event here, the pressure with Keaton Swain, of course, Connor Berry, you're no stranger racing with these guys in iRacing. But to see the speed that Keaton has shown, and now with Connor during the National Series, I mean, what was your plan?
Honestly, my plan for this season is just to keep my head on cool and do what I've done the past 3 seasons and just be consistent, get podiums every single week, and keep up at the front, keep my head clean, stay smooth, keep friendships on the track. That way I'm not making any enemies. And I mean, Key and Connor knew they'd be fast. I've been watching the streams of the VOR stuff, and they've been absolutely kicking butt. Like, they've been so fast all season long, and I knew they'd be hard to beat. So coming in, I kind of knew that they'd be the top dogs and someone I had to chase down. But see them tonight, I really got to get on, put in some more work, make some more tunes, get some more like time in for myself, get more comfortable with the car. But I mean, they ran great. I knew that they'd be fast. They ran clean. Their battle was great to watch. I had the best seat in the house for it. And Zach ran great too. Me and him didn't have any contact the whole entire race. So I couldn't ask for a better race tonight. I mean, I wish I would have been up there a little bit more, but I mean, next week I'll be back at it.
Well, it is a long season. You got points going into it, chasing another championship. I got to say congratulations for you getting on the podium. And I mean, there's so many people that stand behind you, whether it's in the virtual world or on the real racetrack. And I think it's time for a little love.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can see the suit. Just want to toss it on, give a big shout out to like all my sponsors like Prater Racing, Toyo Tires, Sparco, CBR, Voodoo Graphics, FK Rod Ends, everybody that supports me, like Ruthless Karting, and then a big shout out to my parents who fund my whole entire racing. They got me my computer to start off with, and they got me my first ever sim and iRacing. So without them, I wouldn't be doing this when I wouldn't be here. So can't thank them enough, and I can't thank all my friends that hop on and practice with me and get me better. And then Ryan Beat Motorsports, Ruthless Karting also for the real world stuff. Like, they're getting me in the hours and I'm putting in the work that I can be better on and off the track and on and off the sim. So can't thank them enough. And everybody that comes out and supports me and makes this racing thing happen, like, I couldn't thank them enough. This is a dream come true, and I'm sure I'm living a lot of little kids' dreams right now. So I'm just trying to take advantage of it while I can and make something out of it.
Awesome, Mason. Say hi to your mom and dad, and we'll see you next week on the Virtual Dirt.
All right, see you guys next week.
Once again, that's Mason Prater rounding out your top 3 tonight. I'd like to thank him, Keaton Swain, and Connor Berry for taking the time to speak with us during post-race coverage. And gave an incredible start to the season, some good battling. Yes, there was a fair bit of attrition, as talked about a bit with Connor Berry, but in turn, some great battles, and in the end, Connor Berry played the right positioning right to make that move that took over the race lead from Swain, secured this feature victory.
Well, I think we set the tone for the season pretty much, and I think a lot of drivers are going to go back to the driving board on some strategies out there. The top runners, well, they always say the cream rises to the top. Well, they have for this round, but I think things are going to change through the season as now the tone has been set.
And Taylor, that tone in turn moves its way over towards the direction of Bark River. Your opinions on how that can play out? The next one.
It's going to showcase those drivers who utilize the opportunity to showcase their talents here tonight. Bark River, though, another different animal that these drivers will have to negotiate. We're going to see who then has the talent there. Could we see a back-to-back, of course, for our top three, or will some new faces take up to the top of the hill when we come back next Thursday night at Bark River?
Again, catch that 10 p.m. Eastern Time. That's when coverage will start then. If you want to get in on the action, also be sure to join the iRSC Discord. For more information, check out iRacing Short Course, social media, and on YouTube. They have a link for their Discord in their descriptions for their respective side of things. Let's take a look at the upcoming events meanwhile across the iRacing service, because the SimMax Cup Series powered by MPI hits the Darlington on January the 9th. That starts at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. Catch that on twitch.tv/Podium Esports. Then Monday Night Racing drives the Porsche RSRs at RBR. January the 10th, Road to Glory starts at 7 p.m. The Pro Series, estimated start time 8 p.m. You can catch RTG, Podium 1, Podium 2 for the Pro Series. Then Operation eMotorsport iRacing League action heads to the Daytona Road Course. That will be January the 11th, 8 p.m. Eastern. Catch that on youtube.com/Operation Motorsport. And then S-Rock, presented by Shenandoah Shine, heads to Charlotte Motor Speedway for a visit to the home track for many of the stock car organizations. Be sure to check out Old Style Gen 6 Racing January the 12th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Catch that on twitch.tv/Podium Esports. On that note, I'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's action, as well as the 2022 series sponsors: CBR Performance Products, AIM Sports Data, Super Clean, Dirt Sports World, Signature Propellers, Positive Beverage, and Smith Graphics for supporting this series. For Ryan Bauer, James Pike, Cisco Scaramuza, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore at Podium Esports, for everyone behind the scenes, iRacing Short Course Series, for our camera builder, Dougie Beard, for Cameron Haberon on social media, for our producer this evening, Ryan Bauer, and for my colleagues, Taylor Burris and Dave Arnold, I'm Justin Prince. Thank you so much for watching tonight's action. We hope to see you next week from Bark River. Congratulations to Connor Berry, your winner from Crandon.